So good evening, everybody. My name is Uzma Parveen, and welcome to this career seminar with Faith Jackson-Garbett from WAA Chosen, hosted by myself as member of the Sutton Coldfield Youth Council. This seminar has been set up by the Youth Council in cooperation with the Sutton Chamber of Commerce and is the final of the 3 seminars which we have held. The Sutton Youth Council consists of representatives from each school in Sutton Coldfield, and we are working to do things like this to provide opportunities for young people in Sutton Coldfield. As well as these seminars, the Youth Council has other plans in the following months ahead of us, including a Sutton-wide non-uniform day, with all the money raised going towards the YMCA, who's a charity we have decided to focus our fundraising on. So when this, along with other fundraising events come along, be sure to donate, as they are a charity who do lots for the young all over the country, including here in Sutton. I will be putting down the link for the YMCA donation page in the chat section. We have put together these seminars as in the current climate, students don't have much opportunity to look at careers, and we want everybody to be able to make informed decisions about their futures. This seminar will be recorded, and we ask that everybody mutes themselves. Throughout the seminar, any questions you may have, please put in the chat, and we'll select questions from here to ask in the Q&A section after the presentation. May I welcome Faith Jackson-Garbett, HR Business Partner at nationally renowned Sutton Coldfield-based WAA Chosen, who will be sharing her insights into recruitment and the HR industry. She has been kind enough to join us for the seminar today. Enough of me talking, I will now pass it on to Faith, who I believe has a presentation.
Thank you for such a wonderful and warm welcome. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. So hopefully you guys can all see that. Give me a quick thumbs up, someone. Brilliant. Okay. So I thought I'd just start with a quick agenda for what Ben and I are going to go through today. So Ben's my colleague, he's our digital technologist, and he's on the call too. So I'm going to do a quick intro, and then I'm going to talk about the agency more broadly. I'm then going to pass on to Ben to do the same, and he's going to talk about our clients and some specific examples of interesting digital work. And then we're going to do a bit of a break for your questions, and please ask as many and kind of any questions that you want to. This is completely your opportunity to do that. And then if we get time, I'm going to do a few hints and tips on things like CVs and work experience, because I know that might be on the radar for you guys either this year or next year. And then at the end, back to more questions from you. So a quick intro. So I did sociology at A-level, and I absolutely loved the focus on people. So it's all about people and societies, and I found it really, really interesting. So I then decided to go on to do that at degree level. And in all honesty, I did it because I loved the subject and because I love learning. So I did that at Goldsmiths, University of London. And then I took a gap year. I did a little bit of travelling, went to kind of a number of different places, including New Zealand, Australia, and Nepal. And then I came back and I decided that I wanted to do a master's in HR. And essentially, I decided that I wanted to put all that passion and kind of concentration on people from sociology into a business context, which HR has allowed me to do. So I did that, and then I went on to the world of work after finishing my master's. I did a year at a charity called Autism West Midlands as a HR assistant. And then after that contract came to an end, I started looking for a new role and found WAA Chosen, who are just around the corner from me, which means that I get to walk to work, which is very nice. And I started as a kind of junior exec there doing, I guess, basic admin. And then since then, my role has massively grown and developed over that 5 years now. So I'm essentially now responsible for recruitment, kind of end to end, and then anything else people related, be that our training programs or our wellness programs, kind of one-to-ones, development, anything related to people essentially comes under my remit. And then outside of work, as you can see on the slide, I am a little bit obsessed with my dog. You might have heard her barking at the start of this seminar. So if you see me in Sutton Park with her, she's very yappy. And then I'm also learning to crochet as a new little lockdown hobby. My cousin's very methodically teaching me on Zoom. And then I've also got a brand new nephew who I haven't yet get to meet, but looking forward to it when I can. So then onto the agency. So we're recognised for our focus on people and development with a whole host of people related awards, including 3 stars at Best Company and being in the Sunday Times Top 100, of which we're very proud. So there's lots of great things that we do around people, but I just wanted to pull out a couple of things just to show you guys. So first of all, we've got a training programme called Training Tuesdays, whereby a member of our team will host a training session every single week. So they might be learning, they might be sharing learning out of a book that they've read, or a series of webinars, or a course that they've been on. So as you can see, those are all images of when we were back in our office, and we've kind of been doing those online more recently. And then Wellness Wednesday. So again, these are kind of been online throughout lockdown, but under normal circumstances, we'd go out and do something kind of either related to the body, so things like yoga or pedalos, as you can see in the pictures, or talks on kind of things like mindfulness or how to prioritise being the most recent one, to talks on wellness and well-being, if we do that once a month. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more flavour on top of kind of what you might have seen or read about us already. And you might be wondering what an agency actually does, because before I joined WAA, I didn't really know. So I thought I'd stick in a quick slide to talk about that. And this is a very kind of condensed version, I guess. But essentially, we work with lots of different clients and they come to us with their challenges. So, for example, the likes of VW or Britvic or Pirelli, and their challenges can be quite varied. So, for instance, it might be that they want to launch a brand new brand, or they want to open a new store, or they want to run an event or set up a new website. And so they bring those challenges to us, and we've got lots of very clever and creative people at the agency, and they work together to come up with the solution for the client, essentially in a nutshell. And then these are some of the brands that we work with across 3 main sectors, being food and drink, automotive and trade. So I'm sure you'll recognise kind of lots of names on that slide. And then I just thought before I hand over to Ben that I'd show you a few examples of our work, and I'm not going to kind of dwell on them or talk about them in detail because I know we push for time, but I just thought I'd show you a few little things. So this is a Tarmac RA cement brand, and this is our campaign called One of the Family, just to really kind of personalise and bring a new feel to their brand. And every time I walk past one of these cement bags, I get really excited because that's something that we did. And then Jackson, so doing some live sports sponsorship. Interesting face there from Chris Kamara. And then this one is a bit more research led. So Garbett are one of our bathroom brands, and this was about doing some really important research for them and then sharing it in various publications. And then so Northgate and a little bit of sports sponsorship through the darts. And then finally, this is just back to WAA and some of the things that we like to get up to, again, kind of when we're allowed to under normal circumstances. So we were very fortunate in January, right before lockdown, to go to Chamonix. So the whole team went skiing for 3 days, as well as doing a conference. And then other things like rounders and kind of other ad hoc events. So we certainly like to kind of work hard, but reward our team as well. And people are really the focus of that. So that's kind of me and a very whistle-stop tour of the agency. So I'm going to hand over to Ben now to do the same and then give you guys a chance to ask any questions after that.
Thank you, Faith. So hello everyone, I'm Ben, I'm a digital technologist and I'm based in the digital team at WAA Chosen. So the digital team is one of 2 of the creative side teams. So we have the creative and the digital. And then we have the 3 hubs that were spoke about by Faith previously. So the digital team is all to do with website development and email campaigns. We do a lot of strategy behind digital assets, advertising online and things like that. So with my work experience, I actually never actually had many different experiences, sorry, mind blank. I did some primary school teaching for a few weeks, and then I also did some lunchtime caring at an elderly home. And that's pretty much all the work experience I had until WAA Chosen. So I'm just going to skip down to the education. I'll let you know about that. So we're in the black font for Health and Social Care Level 3 and Information Technology First Level 3. This was during the time I was at college, and I didn't really know exactly what to do. I didn't know what career path I wanted to take. I've just come out of school, and there's a whole big world, and I didn't know the path I wanted to take. And during that time, while studying, I decided to put my CV on a few different recruitment websites like Indeed.co.uk. And a recruitment agency contacted me about WAA. And during that time, I went through the application, I did my trial day, and I got the apprenticeship. So that leads me back to my work experience with WAA, which was a permanent role. So I did my IT apprenticeship, and then from then I got a permanent role as an IT assistant supporting the IT team. During that time, I had I made some connections throughout the office, and one of them was with the digital team, where I got to start to learn some code, which then led me on to being a junior developer and now fledged to be a digital technologist, which I am today. So following back to the education, with the 5 bullet points in the blue font, those were all the qualifications I achieved during the apprenticeship, which I'll speak about in just a second. But with outside of work, I have a passion with like cryptocurrency, and then also virtual reality and augmented reality, which is really good fun. So just to speak onto the next slide with the apprenticeship route. We'll get there.
I'm trying.
Oh no.
Oh,
there we go.
There you go. Sorry, Ben.
No worries. So with the apprenticeship route, I just wanted to briefly skim over why I actually invested full time into this route. I think it's really beneficial if you don't know about it. So the 3 main points is your work experience. Firstly, like you get to go straight into a job, you get to have the hands-on experience of working in a professional environment, and then you understand how to act and behave with like your colleagues and clients. And it's just one of those things that you kind of learn faster while being on the job. Secondly, will be the training. So every couple of months, I'll have a week booked out where I can have a full online training session online in a classroom and then take an examination at the end, which is how I got my qualifications during the apprenticeship. And it was really good because my company was really supportive during that time. When I do the week training, I wouldn't have to worry too much about the work. But then after the training and the qualification, I can jump straight back into the work and use what I've learned in my everyday job. And then finally, it will be the income. And I think that's really important to learn at such a young age, is to understand money management, have like a monthly based income and know where to put your money. So that could either be in a mortgage or rent or bills, and just having the savings at a really early age can support yourself. It's important to note that you can take an apprenticeship after uni, or it can be a replacement for uni because you can also get the same level qualification as well. So I took it for the same as my college level, but then since on, I never continued because I enjoyed my full time so much, and I managed to have an opportunity to just carry on and excel within my main job. So finally, I just wanted to speak about a client in general and an example. So this is West Midlands Police. They came to us about an opportunity they had for us. So it's situated in one area in West Midlands. They had a property that was essentially a burgled simulator. So it spreads awareness of burglary, and it kind of people can come over to that one location and have a look around and try and become emotionally attached to the property and make them feel like, what happens if I was burgled? How do I prevent it? So what they wanted is something digital, so anyone could access that information and make it more aware about burglaries and how to prevent. So what we did is we created a website, but it was more of it wasn't your alternative type scroll through website. What we did is actually create a simulation within the website, there was a whole virtual house tour. So what we did is that we had a house, we trashed it up, smashing plates, throwing chairs everywhere. It was, don't talk about the cleanup because it wasn't very fun. It took quite a while. However, we took loads of photos of everything smashed and then we uploaded them. So we stitched them together. So now you can be able to walk around a fully fledged house and have loads of points everywhere about what happened, doors unlocked, windows left open, and simple things like that to prevent a burglar's attention. So what the really cool thing is, it actually came back to us again with another project, which I can't actually show you today because it's not been released, but it's super exciting to know that work you do can come back and increase with even more from the same client. So if you ever wanted to, you can see this for yourself by just typing in 27 Station Road, West Midlands Police into Google and having your own fully fledged experience by walking around the house. So that's West Midlands Police.
So I think that's us for the first section. So do you guys want to ask any questions based on that?
I think if I may start off, Faith, I really want to thank you very much for outlining some of your experiences. It's quite interesting to hear about your journey when you said that your role starting off with your degree in sociology, was it? And then going in, starting off, was it basically making tea and then your journey going that way versus Ben's? Could you perhaps share a little bit more about how you found that journey? Because of course, I think a lot of students in Sutton will be quite concerned about how to enter it, you know, whether the degree will have a lot of relevance or whether the work experience route, any of the thoughts or suggestions you can have there?
Yeah, like you said, Ben and I did come at it from different routes. I did a degree and Ben did his apprenticeship. And I think for me, when I'm looking at CVs, certainly I would say that, you know, either route is valuable. And I think if you've got kind of a degree, I guess it's about where the work experience is, and it becomes all the more important and relevant because you want to be able to see that a candidate can, you know, apply that learning to a real life situation. So I think, you know, both are really great routes. And like I said, I love the subject, which is why I did my degree. And it took me a little bit of time to figure out exactly what I wanted to do. Whereas, you know, for Ben, he kind of got there a bit quicker than I did, probably because his apprentice led him straight onto what he currently does. But I think both are valuable. It's just about kind of getting the work experience alongside them and being able to show examples of how you're demonstrating that your kind of learning works, I guess.
Thank you, Faith and Ben. We've got a question from Liam. What is the hardest project you've completed for a client?
Oof.
That's a good question.
So there's been a few tough ones, and I think the reason they're listed as tough is because they're probably quite short deadlines for what we expect. A lot of work is all down to the creativity behind it and the strategy, and that requires quite a lot of thinking time. So the shorter the deadline, the more tough it feels. The hardest one I've personally worked on is probably the first time I've ever done an e-learning development. For one of the projects we had, I think 8 topics, and they were all based on different safeties within like a restaurant. So you could have, you'd obviously have health and safety, fire safety, and so on. And creating those e-learning modules are probably the hardest to work on because it's my first ever time. I've never done something like that before. But once you finish it, it's such a relief, and you become so like fulfilled and happy with what you've done, because it's that extra skill you then achieve to use it again in the future.
I was just looking at the, you know, when you had the picture of the Talk Sports, and actually you do come across as some of the adverts that it turns out that you were behind, and the West Midlands Police one. I do remember coming across that some time ago, and I imagine that some of the differences that you would have made, I suppose, actually helping people, you know, secure their homes actually would, you know, count to some sort of satisfaction to your job. And how do you feel about the satisfaction, the difference that you're making in your positions?
you want to take that first, Faith?
Oh, I lost the second end of that question, Alex. Do you mind just repeating it?
Yeah, it's just a satisfaction about the job position and the roles that you're making in terms of helping businesses, securing jobs, and also making a meaningful difference, like with the West Midlands Police.
I think I guess there's kind of two strands of that. From a client point of view, it's always really great when you've kind of solved the client's problem or challenge. And when that's a client that then has an impact on the community, like the West Midlands Police, or, you know, kind of some of the other clients that we work for, then that's really impactful as well. And the second part, I would say, is that, I mean, for me, my role isn't client focused. It's all about the people in our business. So in terms of the communities that we support, there's other things that the agency do. So we have a registered charity called the WAA Foundation, and we regularly do events through that to raise awareness or money for local causes. And then also one of the best things about my job is, you know, doing things like this, so talking to young people or local communities and helping them and supporting them any way we can. I guess that's what I'd say, and I think that it gives me a huge amount of satisfaction, and hopefully, you know, if it can help and support other people, then that's kind of all the better, because as a certain business, we want to make sure that we can do that.
I can see there's a question from James as well. Would you have any recommendations for us as young people today, how we can best prepare ourselves to be more employable in the future? So that's quite a wide-ranging question, and you both have different journeys into entering employment.
That's a brilliant question. I would say make sure that you've got a really good CV, and take the time to work on it. There are lots of great software applications out there that can kind of help you build a CV, such as Canva, for instance, and there's lots of other ones. I would say, kind of like I said earlier, do try and get some work experience, even if it's not in the field that you might want to go into, because, you know, it's difficult getting work experience. I can remember that challenge really well. But, you know, any experience you can get of the world of work, even if it's a couple of weeks in an office, or, you know, if it's a job in a cafe. You know, I worked in a cafe for, you know, throughout my degree, and there's always transferable skills that come with that. So I think that's really important. I think being proactive is important. So kind of thinking about setting up a LinkedIn profile, for example, and connecting with local people within kind of the Sutton community and businesses. Or if you're going to ask them for work experience, maybe send them a video as well. You know, we get lots of requests from people and lots of CVs. So anything you can do to make yourself stand out is really important. Or even trying to be personalised. So if you really want experience somewhere, you know, writing to one individual within that company and finding out who it is you need to speak to, or sending them a personalised bit like video, or a little kind of box of all the great reasons they should hire you or give you some work experience. Because it is tough, you know, there are lots of candidates out there. So it's just about trying to really show your personality and shine, I guess I would say.
Thank you for the questions and answers. Would you like to carry on with the presentation?
I will indeed.
Thank you.
So I've only got one more slide, and some of it I have just said actually in your excellent questions. So just a little few kind of hints around CVs. So as you can imagine, I see an awful lot of CVs. Sometimes we can get, you know, 100 or 200 over a weekend, and I do look at every single one of them. So I think it's kind of safe to say that hopefully I can give you some fair and reasonable advice. So the first is to keep it quite short and sweet. Sometimes I get really, really long CVs, and considering how many I need to look at, you know, I'm probably not going to have time to look at all of it or kind of want to. So I'd say keep it kind of to the point, 1 or 2 pages. If you can get it on one, kind of all the better, but 2 is a maximum. And then make it personal. So I think certainly the first few CVs I ever did, I made them kind of very factual, and clearly, you know, they're a professional document, so they need to be factual, but it's also okay to show your personality in them. So, you know, if you are really into baking at the weekend, then put that at the end. Or if you know, you're applying for a social job and you want to include your social channels, then put that. Or, you know, if there's something you're particularly passionate about, then put it in your CV, because when I'm looking at them, I'm trying to get to know that candidate, you know, that person that could be part of our team, and it's really hard from just a piece of paper. So you know, it's okay to make it personal and bubbly and to show your own personality. So you know, like I've put on the side, make it live and breathe. And then, like I said earlier, do try and make it stand out. So do a bit of work on it. There are lots of software platforms, so Canva's one of them. And as far as I'm aware, it's free, it's pretty easy to use. I think there are YouTube guides on how to do it. But it just gives your CV that little bit of kind of creative edge and extra level of professionalism, I would say. And then work experience, if you can, do get some. It's really, really valuable. Again, kind of no matter where it's from, because you can always talk about how what you've learnt there transfers to your kind of prospective employer. If you can't, then do, because I know it's difficult, then do highlight what you're passionate about. And my example of this is probably going to embarrass Ben, actually. But when I interviewed Ben, which was, you know, a little while ago now, but I can still remember that it was, you know, like you said, it was an IT apprentice role. And at that level, I wasn't expecting him to have loads of work experience. Like he said, he had a bit. But what he did tell us about was the fact that in his own time, he'd gone and built a computer, which was pretty impressive, actually. And, you know, it's safe to say that it did a lot of favours and kind of, you know, he got the job because of it. So if you can't get the work experience, then do show on your CV or, you know, during an interview that you're passionate about something and that you're doing it on your own time. The other example of that is that sometimes when we get social media applicants, they might not have got loads of work experience because they haven't had the opportunity, but they've worked really hard on their own social media channels and they're able to show us those at interview. And then finally, do use tools like LinkedIn. I don't know how familiar you guys are with LinkedIn, but you know, like anything else, it's a social media network that works much the same way as Facebook or Twitter does, but it's for professionals and kind of business contacts. So you might want to set yourself a profile up and start connecting with people, because again, it might be a really good way of putting the message out there and kind of asking people for support with work experience.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Faith. With the CVs, I mean, I can remember when I first did my CV many years ago, and then it just slowly evolves, doesn't it? And you slowly add more and more, but making it personal, I think is really good advice in terms of making it stand out. Have you got any specific definitely do's or don'ts? I mean, you mentioned about keeping it short. My pet hate is spelling mistakes and formatting across the thing. Is there anything that you would definitely say to definitely do and definitely not do?
That's a good question. Yeah, definitely check kind of spelling and grammar, like Alex said. Sometimes I kind of get CVs where people have obviously sent them to other people for comments, and they've left the comments in. So do just make sure that if you get advice and other people are typing into your CV, that those comments are out. It's easily done, but do check. Other things, like I said, kind of not reels and reels of pages. And I think what else? I guess putting the most relevant stuff at the top. So, you know, if there are great transferable skills that you want to highlight, put them at the top rather than at the bottom of the page. So say you've done, like, you know, say you've been a waitress for 5 years, but you've got 2 weeks of work experience with a marketing agency, and you're now applying for a job with a marketing agency. So even though it's less experience, put that up the top and put more detail about exactly what you did that, because that's the bit I'm interested in kind of the most, I would say. So just kind of, rather than length of time, kind of prioritize based on what's relevant for that role. Other things, I guess, again, make it personal. So when you're, you know, things like sometimes when people are applying for multiple jobs, they've left the bit at the top that says I want to be a copywriter, but they're applying for a social media exec role, or, you know, kind of whatever it is. Just make sure that you've double checked these things so that they're not kind of instantly putting off the person that's reading it. And if you can, you know, do a cover letter as well that's personal, that maybe talks about kind of what research you've done on the brand or what caught your eye, then kind of that's brilliant as well, because it just shows that you've made a real effort.
It's definitely the making it personal, I think, really does stand out in your brilliant advice. The example of when you had the interview with Ben however many years ago, but you still remember that the building of the computer, and it's almost, I can imagine you at the end of a long interview session, you would just say, oh, is that person who did the computer, as opposed to the name, wouldn't you? Any other examples on how to make it really personal and stand out, not just with CVs, but also with the work experience?
I think I'd probably say, kind of, I guess, thinking about an interview setting, I'd say make sure that you use examples. I sometimes find that when I'm interviewing kind of apprentices or people that are new to doing interviews, they'll kind of say, I'm great at, you know, X, Y, or Z. I'm great at time management, for example, but you need to have an example as well. So, you know, I'm great at time management. For example, on my last project, I was doing X, Y, and Z, and I had a time frame. And again, it's okay if that's not work. You know, it could be that you use a kind of project at school, or that you're talking about kind of university when you get to that point. But do just use an example of everything you're saying, pretty much. You know, and time management is just one thing, but say you wanted to, I don't know, say you were passionate about research, and you might talk about a research project, or you know, a particular client that you'd gone away and looked into, but just always give an example of what you're saying, again, to really be able to see the, not just the learning, but the real life application, that you've gone away and you've done something and you understand kind of how to process or how to do a research piece, you know, whatever it is, that you do understand how to do that in real life.
Great advice, Faith. Alex, I wanted to come in and ask Ben a question, if I could. Ben, your first job has been at WAA Chosen.
Yeah.
I suppose you've gone through the different levels. Do you almost feel like you've got WAA Chosen in your blood, and how much does that help you from day to day? Because I've worked with some apprentices as well who, you know, have literally worked for their company for 5-10 years, and it must be really good that you've seen the company grow as well, and yourself.
100%. It's like, it's really hard to explain in some ways, because not having a previous job beforehand, it's like you've never experienced that. So you've never experienced like leaving a job either, and like splitting away from it. So like you said, working at WAA, I am all hands in. Anything I can get my hands on, anything I can do, I'll always be on the case. And I think the reason being is it's because it's been my first and only job. So my full commitment, like you said, the WA blood is running through me, and all I want to do is just watch it and help it grow as much as possible.
I like the way you say that to the person who hired you. So
He's doing a good job.
You're right. No, you're right there, Ben. And as you say, that's I think that's you know, we've seen lots of people, young people, talk to us in the last couple of weeks, and there's differences between the degree and the apprenticeship route. But I think that apprenticeship route really does shine through, and that's something I think for the students to take away, is that if you're lucky enough, or if you can get into that position, doing what you do is great. And I suppose lastly was just tell the students about getting a promotion. How does that feel like? You've had about 5, I think, so far, if I look at your CV.
It's amazing. Let's just say it's absolutely incredible. It gives you the confidence that you're doing something right. Especially over, I think it's coming up to May, 4 years. So to know that I'm doing something and I'm progressing every couple of years, it's rewarding, and it gives really good satisfaction that I'm a good asset to the company.
Brilliant. Thank you. Esme, do you have any other questions?
Sorry, I'm just having like really bad internet connections. So like LinkedIn was mentioned a lot. So like, because of COVID, we're experiencing really hard to come by right now. Like, how much weight would you put in to like volunteering work or hobbies?
So if you didn't catch that, the question is just on how difficult it is right now to get real work experience. So how much weight would you put to volunteering work or other hobbies?
That's a good question. Yeah, hopefully we get to a situation where we can have more work experience opportunities for kind of all of you, let's hope. But I think in the meantime, there's certainly kind of a lot of kind of additional stuff you can get online. So there's lots of courses and qualifications, there's lots of free learning that you could be doing to kind of supplement what you've been doing through the schools. And then kind of any voluntary work I think is useful. And I think, again, it's about pulling out the examples and how you would then apply them to work, and kind of, you know, accepting that, well, it's not an employer, but it doesn't have to be. There's lots of valuable skills that you can get doing a research project, a voluntary project, and just kind of making sure that you highlight those things and how you think they would apply in a work setting, because there'll be loads of things that will. So it's just about kind of highlighting those things, I would say.
That's very good advice, thank you. I think perhaps the last question that we've got from the group is one of the repeated questions we get from students is that they're worried that they're making the wrong decision, that they're worried that they're going to either go down the wrong route, the wrong degree, get trapped in an industry that they don't like. So do you have any thoughts on how you, when you knew that this was the right industry for you, and any advice on probably a wider issue around the confidence that you're making the right decisions, especially when you're choosing subjects, degrees, etc., when you go into university?
I think that's a really good question, and I think it's probably something that everyone kind of at your age group feels. I know I certainly did. You know, some of my friends are very fortunate that they knew from kind of day one what they wanted to be and what they wanted to do, and if you feel like that, that's brilliant. If you don't, it's more difficult. I guess my only advice is that, you know, I picked a subject that I absolutely loved, and that I knew I wanted to do a degree because I love learning, and that kind of led me to where I am now. But I do think it's really challenging, it's really hard. I guess I would maybe say, if you're not sure, try and talk to as many people as you can. You know, if there are kind of your parents or your friends' parents, if there's anyone in the field that you think you might like to go into, then, you know, ask them to have a bit of time with them and kind of quiz them as much as possible. And I'm sure they'd be kind of more than happy to do that. Or, you know, contact someone on LinkedIn if you don't know anybody in that field and say, can I just have 5 minutes with you? Would you mind? It'd be really useful for me. Yeah, ask as many questions as you can. Kind of if people are willing and happy to give you a bit of a rundown of what it's like, so you can understand more what that kind of how the industry is. And I guess with degrees, make sure you know, kind of understand all of the modules and everything that's involved, and if that's something you're kind of genuinely going to be really excited about. Or, you know, like Ben said, check out other options. If you're not sure about a degree, then it might be that that isn't the route for you and that an apprenticeship would be better. Or kind of another route. So I guess ask as many questions as you can, do as much research as you can, and just, you know, kind of make sure that you feel sure, I guess. And if you don't, maybe take a bit more time to think about it or ask a few more questions.
Yeah, thanks, Faith. That's really good. And a last, probably a last word from you, Ben. I'll just say to the council, if you've got any more questions, please do put them in the chat. We've got a little bit more time, but while we're doing that, we'll have a final few words from Ben. Just on, I suppose, you mentioned the journey you've been on, and where do you see that journey taking you as a person in WA? Conscious that Faith is your hiring manager, so be careful what you say. But
oh, I have to be careful what I say.
I'm listening with my ears peeled here.
I think over time, when you do work at an agency, you slowly become known and you grow relationships more and more with people throughout the agency. And I think what I just look for is, as long as I'm providing enough resource and I'm still being really productive, I'd like to see myself slowly increase within the future. And I think that's pretty much for anyone's career. You always want to progress as you go on. So with myself, I will be looking to increase over time, but I think you get so much experience on everyday's life within work. it's just a fantastic experience.
Good answer, Ben. That's you, a politician in the making as well. But no, that's a really good point, isn't it? That if you're in a job you enjoy, stay in that, do your best, make the most of it, and continue to do that. And if you're in a position like yourself where you've been doing that for a good few years and you're still of a quite a young age, you're really getting that experience, and that's a really important lesson to take. So, a huge thanks, Uzma. Well done. I appreciate you've had a few connection issues, but a great start with the hosting. It was really good to see another one of our youth council hosting the event today, and it's great that we sit back and sort of let you do it, which is really well done. So thank you to Uzma. Thank you to all the youth council people, young people that have logged on as well, and most importantly, a massive thanks to Faith and to Ben. I think the star of the show, without a doubt. So a really good good insight into what it's like to be an apprentice at a local Sutton Coldfield business. Faith, thank you so much for your insight and your understanding from a HR point of view. I think there's some really valuable lessons to take from that this evening, and we'll make sure that other people get a chance to see it as we send it through the other schools, careers leaders as well. So thank you, everybody. One last thanks, I suppose, to Alex and to Phil, our president of the chamber, who's on the call supporting today as well. But it's been a real pleasure, these last three, to 3D Facility Support, to Burley Brown and to WAA Chosen tonight. It's been a pleasure to bring together a lot of Sutton young professionals and young people to talk to some school pupils as well. So fantastic, thanks so much, and we'll look to see you all again soon.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone. That was an absolutely brilliant session, and it was hosted absolutely beautifully. Great questions from all of you. So thanks for hosting us. If you've got any other questions after this, then kind of Ben and I are happy to contact us and ask at a later date. But thank you very much.